Hey Wargamers, the leaks just keep on flowing. That's right, the infamous author of last week's massive Codex leak, Codex Cat, has returned to provide some clarifications on things that he said and also provide some additional details on things he left out. Now, I think most of those things are pretty underwhelming or self-evident. However, one thing that is not self-evident or underwhelming are the immense changes that are going to be applied to the Devilfish troop transport. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. So to begin with, the Devilfish has different abilities based on which tactical philosophy you adopt. Again, you have the option of either choosing Manka, which is a very aggressive strategy, or Kaoyun, which is a more sit back and shoot philosophy. If you select Manka, you have a 9-inch pre-game move with your Devilfish. That means that all the things that are inside your Devilfish, whether those are strike teams, breacher teams, pathfinders, characters, all those things can be well into the mid-board before the game even begins, giving them better options for objective grabbing and also, better range on certain targets that they might want to get a little close to. So this is a very strong ability on its own. The Kaoyun one is also fairly strong. It allows you to enter strategic reserves if you're within 9 inches of a board edge. This means your Devilfish can hop off the board and then hop back on the board in a completely different location. One, avoiding damage over that time period, but also giving you access to an objective or a target that you otherwise wouldn't be able to reach. That is pretty darn good if you have a bunch of Devilfish that need to capture objectives, for example. So both of these abilities are pretty good, right? Like they really enhance the value of the Devilfish aside from just being a box to tote people around in. Now it has some unique functionality and some really serious implications for how you might want to play your army. So that is really cool to see and a welcome change to a pretty underwhelming transport in the past. On top of these changes, the Devilfish has access to a couple different stratagems, which are pretty good. So the first one is onboard sensors, and it's 1 CP. Both of these are only 1 CP, which is kind of crazy. Onboard sensors is the less impressive of the two, but still pretty valuable. It allows nearby fire warriors to re-roll ones against a target unit within 24 inches of the Devilfish. So you pick a Devilfish, you pick a target, you say, okay, fire warriors, you're going to be shooting at this thing, and you get to re-roll ones if you shoot at that, which is pretty good. It's one of the few sources of re-rolling ones in the Codex, and so it's valuable in that regard. And to have it tied to a Devilfish as opposed to something like a drone or just an infantry upgrade is useful because a Devilfish is harder to remove than a drone is. So that's pretty cool. It does remind me very much of the drone harbinger ideas that we've talked about in the pretty distant past at this point, but next time they do a codex, I know the new one isn't even out yet, and we're already asking for things next time. I know, but still, next time they do a codex, I would love it if they had an option here for this applies specifically to drones and have it be a drone harbinger. So if there was a way that you could just have this apply to either fire warriors or drones, that'd be a really cool thing, and make your Devilfish do even more with a kit that has otherwise been pretty underappreciated. The second stratagem is really the spicy one, and we're going to talk a lot about the implications of this in this video. And that stratagem is combat debarkation. Again, it's 1 CP. It says that you can disembark from 1 Devilfish after a normal move. However, if it's Manka and turns 1 through 3, then you actually get 3 Devilfish to do this. Or if it's Kaoyun and turns 3 through 5, then again you get 3 Devilfish to do this with. So this is super powerful, and it might not seem like that big of a deal on the surface, but the ability to have your fire warriors move the distance of a Devilfish and then hop out and then shoot is much better than them having to hop out of the Devilfish before it moves. So this means that you get much better access to rapid board control at the beginning of the game. If you're playing Manka, right, you can move your Devilfish up really early and have your fire warriors hop out, and guess what? They're probably going to be in Manka range now. Awesome, that synergizes. Or if it's later in the game, you can reposition much more easily too, right? You can hop in the Devilfish, have it move, and then the next turn, move again and hop out. Suddenly your range, your effective threat bubble is much larger because of this stratagem. So that's a super powerful tool that can facilitate, yes, board control, but also offensive capabilities of some of your shorter range units. That means your breachers have a much better chance of getting in range. It means your strike teams are much more likely to be in rapid fire range. So this works very well. On top of that, it means that your infantry are able to better support your battle suits that might otherwise just be upboard from them, right? If you deep strike, if you're using the enhanced movement characteristic of jetpack units, those units are going to be off on their own unless you're able to bring some infantry along with you in the Devilfish. And so this facilitates that element of support as well. And it's not just for fire warriors, right? We can have an ethereal in this thing. He can hop out and start dishing out his new invocation of the elements to help support our crisis suit brethren, our ghost kill brethren, our whatever brethren. We can support them with our ethereal now in a way that doesn't leave him just foot slogging the way up there, but instead can be moved rapidly and deployed rapidly from a Devilfish. So that is critical. I kind of expect that this will be FAQ to 2CP pretty quickly because it just seems really strong. It seems extremely useful, and 1CP is not a lot to pay for such a useful ability. These changes essentially facilitate what we might consider a Fish of Fury strategy. Now, if you have only played 40k for the past few editions, you're probably like, what's Fish of Fury? Well, Fish of Fury, my friend, is a strategy that used to exist where fire warriors would be touted around in a bunch of Devilfish, and they could hop out and then shoot under the Devilfish without penalty and just kind of wreck face that way. So there was a really strong strategy where you could take a bunch of Devilfish, fill them with fire warriors, and just run around the board and win. And this isn't exactly that, but it's pretty darn good, particularly in the context of Mon Ka. It's also good in Khao Yun, of course, but I'm going to be focusing on Mon Ka here because this is the part that really gets me excited. So in Mon Ka, we can get our fire warriors pretty much wherever we need them turn 1, right? So we get a 9-inch pregame move just based on the Devilfish, plus we get their 12-inch movement, plus we get a 3-inch disembark. So that is a really useful tool, right? We get our fire warriors or pathfinders or whatever, we get them a massive 24 inches off of our deployment line. So that facilitates a lot of different things, including range and also, again, objective capture. So we can get them where we need them, essentially. The question then becomes, who are we going to be doing this with? Are we going to be using strike teams? Are we going to use breacher teams? We could use pathfinders as well, but who do we really want to be in the right place at the right time? And this is a question that's complicated a little bit by Borkan, and depending on how the Borkan set tenet affects blasters versus rifles and everything like that. So we're just going to kind of ignore the question of Borkan right now and just assume that everything will be easier when you're Borkan. And that's good enough. Strike teams, breacher teams, what's the difference? Well, one of the main differences is, of course, their weapon. So for strike teams, you're probably going to be taking a rifle, which is rapid fire 1, now at 36 inches with strength 5, now at AP -1. So you are going to get 2 strength 5 AP 1 shots at 18-inch range. And that means that you actually have a very large effective threat bubble after that 24-inch movement. However, the blaster is a little bit more punchy at shorter range. So for the blaster, we're looking at assault 2, 14-inch range, means we have strength 5, AP -1, or if we're within 8 inches range, we can go to strength 6, AP -2. So both of those profiles are updated versus the 8th edition book. That was leaked a little while ago thanks to some instruction manuals that went out early. But so 14-inch range for the strength 5 AP -1 or 8-inch range for the strength 6 AP -2 on the blaster. Both strike teams and breacher teams are going to benefit pretty handily from Mon Ka, right? Mon Ka allows them to both advance and shoot, right? So it doesn't matter that strike teams are using a rapid fire weapon. It doesn't matter that breacher teams are using an assault weapon. They both can advance and shoot because Mon Ka allows them to count as stationary after moving. It also increases the AP an additional points. So suddenly rifles become AP -2. Blasters become AP -2 or -3, which is pretty intense. And it also allows them to reroll 1s to wound if they're firing at a target within the appropriate range. And again, On battle round 1, that's 18 inches. On battle round 2, that's 12. And battle round 3, that's 9. And notice how those ranges are decreasing and how nice it would be to have a way to rapidly move to ensure that you're within Mon Ca range. Wonder how we might do that. So having these different profiles are both benefited by Mon Ca pretty significantly. The thing is, of course, that breachers are hitting harder but have to be at closer range. So breachers are going to be a little bit harder to implement, although that is alleviated by this stratagem and by the general benefits of Mon Ca. Strike teams are going to be a little bit easier to utilize, right? If you're, getting your rapid fire range at 18 inches, that means even if your Devilfish is destroyed, even if you're not able to embark and move, you still have a pretty large effective threat range. And if you are benefiting from Mon Ca, you have a fairly comparable stat line to a blaster in a lot of cases, right? If you're firing at something that's toughness 4, it doesn't matter if you're strength 5 or strength 6. So there's actually a pretty good level of comparability between the two if they're both benefiting from Mon Ca. And so I think it really comes down to more of a tactical choice or more of a strategic choice about, do you want to have that reach, or do you want to have that extra AP, that extra point of strength? Is that really worth it to you? Or do you want a combination of both? I think both is totally fine, depending on what models you have and your general approach to playing. So we will see how this plays out, but it'll be interesting whether we see a shift towards strike teams away from breacher teams, or just kind of stick with breacher teams as being the current reigning champions of which kit you build using the Fire Warrior box. On top of this, we also have a ton of different buffs, right? We can have marker lights to hit on 3s, which you don't necessarily need to be bringing Pathfinders in Devilfishes to get that, although you could, right? You can get lots of marker lights many different ways, and so it's pretty reliable that we're going to be able to hit on 3s with these Fire Warriors if that's our strategy. We also are going to be able to reroll 1s to hit from that Devilfish stratagem or from a Fireblade, right? If we're taking a 10-man unit of either of these, we have some extra room in that Devilfish that we can throw an Ethereal, we can throw a Fireblade, and make those extra perks part of the package, part of the strategy of having a bunch of guys in a Devilfish. Of course, we can also use those spaces for drones, right? If we want to bring a Guardian drone, hey, that sounds great. Let's throw that in the Devilfish too, along with that Fireblade or along with that Ethereal. Perfect. We also can reroll wounds if we are taking a Warlord with the Warlord trait Exemplar of Mon Ca. The Exemplar of Mon Ca allows us to reroll all of our wounds for a particular unit that's within range of our Warlord. So it takes that Mon Ca benefit of being able to reroll 1s to wound and dials up to 11 and says, no, you just get to reroll everything. Have fun. So there's lots of different ways we can boost this and make it even more impactful. That's not to say anything about the different stratagems that apply to Fire Warriors, right? So we have a bunch of different options here, and it seems like this could be the basis for a really strong core of a Tau army. Suddenly, Tau are no longer this gunline army as much as they have ever been, right? But instead are very much promoted as being a dynamic and fluid force. I think this works really fantastically with the general abandonment of For the Greater Good and Overwatch as a baseline Tau thing, right? Like, we are definitely pushing Tau to be much more aggressive or dynamic, just generally more fun to play and play against. And I'm so happy to see this change to Devilfish, because it really goes hand in hand with that design change. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Do you think Fish of Fury is back? Are you going to be loading up on Devilfish with breachers and strike teams, or what's your plan? Let me know in the comments, and of course we'll have a discussion. As always, thanks for watching and happy wargaming. Hey everyone, thanks for watching. A while ago I made my own miniature. If you are interested in showing your support for the channel on the tabletop, you can pick one up either on Etsy if you're in the US, or directly through me worldwide. Special thanks to our sponsor, the Magnet Baron, and also all the good folks over on Patreon, especially Mate Monk, Marcy, A Little Pink Monster, Bennaby Jones, Durza, Ever Keller, Robbie Goodwin, Jose Gomez, Ruger, Drew Pratley, Michael Byrne, Zealous Brimstone, Scott Heater, Stephen Cowan, Jared Egler, Chris Kessler, Tau Oswell, and Shifty.